All right, let's jump right in. We tend to think of cybersecurity as this high-tech war between firewalls and hackers and hoodies, right? But what if the most important defense isn't code, but just understanding a few key concepts? Today, we're going to decode the language of hackers, so you can become your company's first and, honestly, its best line of defense.
And you've got to know, this threat is growing way faster than you think. I mean, get this, 75%, that's 3 out of every 4, targeted cyber attacks start with something as basic as a phishing email. That's it. A catastrophe is literally just one bad click away.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. We spend a fortune on fancy security tech, but it's usually not the tech that fails. Nope. The real vulnerability, the #1 cause of data breaches, is us. It's human error. But here's the cool part. If we're the weakest link, that also means we have the power to become the strongest asset.
So let's start where the hackers start. And their favorite target? It's not your computer, it's your mind. This is all about the con game, about manipulating that very human instinct we all have to trust one another. The fancy term for this is social engineering. It's way less about code and way more about psychology. Think about that big Twitter hack a few years ago. The attackers didn't smash through some digital wall. They just called employees, pretended to be from IT, and tricked them into handing over the keys. That's social engineering. That's how powerful hacking human trust can be. Now, the most common weapon they use for this is phishing. You've seen them. We all have. Emails that look like they're from a brand you trust, designed to create a sense of panic, like your account's going to be suspended, all to push you to act without thinking. Their entire goal is to get that one click on that one link. But here's where the game gets way more personal and a lot more dangerous. See, attackers have moved on from just blasting out millions of emails. Now they're doing something called spear phishing. They do their homework on you. They'll use details from your LinkedIn profile or your company's website to craft a message so specific, so legit sounding, that it's incredibly difficult to spot as a fake. So the difference here is really all about precision. Think of it like this. Regular phishing is like casting a huge fishing net. You're just hoping to catch anybody. But spear phishing, that's like hunting with a high-tech spear aimed directly at one specific high-value target. And you have to remember that target could easily be you. And when that spear is aimed right at a company's bank account, it's called a business email compromise, or BEC for short. And this one is the big one. An attacker fakes the CEO's email and shoots a note to the finance department. Hey, I need you to urgently wire 50 grand for a confidential deal, now. It sounds real, it looks real, and it works disturbingly well. How well? Well, the FBI reported over $2.7 billion in losses just from BEC scams in 2022 alone. Yeah, that's billion with a B. This isn't just some small-time problem, it's a massive criminal industry built on simple, clever deception. Okay, so let's say the hacker's trick works. An employee clicks the link. What happens next? Well, that's when they deploy their digital weapons. Let's talk about malware, the malicious software that actually does all the dirty work. So let's quickly break down the main players here. A virus is the classic. It hooks onto a clean file and just waits for you to run it. A Trojan is way sneakier. It pretends to be useful software that you actually want to install, but secretly it's opening up a backdoor for the bad guys. But the one that really keeps security pros up at night is the worm. Why? Because it spreads all by itself, jumping from computer to computer across a network. No human help needed. It just goes and goes. But out of all these digital weapons, there's one that has become the most feared, the most destructive tool in a hacker's entire arsenal. It doesn't just steal your data. It holds your entire world hostage. And of course, I'm talking about ransomware. It's basically digital extortion. The software gets in, scrambles every single one of your files, and then boom, a note pops up demanding a pile of money to get them back. And this is not some theoretical threat. Just think about the Colonial Pipeline attack. It shut down gas supplies for a huge part of the country. The consequences are very, very real. And to fight it, you've got to understand its playbook. And it's a brutally simple 3-step process. First, it gets in. That's infiltration, usually from one of those phishing emails we talked about. Second, it locks everything down. That's encryption. And third, the ransom demand hits your screen. For criminals, it's a terrifyingly effective business model. And just look at its reach. In 2024, ransomware was the weapon of choice in nearly a quarter of all data breaches. So this isn't some rare, exotic thing anymore. It's a clear and present danger for pretty much everyone.
So, this leads us to the worst case scenario. What happens when all these attacks actually work? Let's talk about the breach itself and the absolute chaos that comes after.
A data breach is pretty much what it sounds like. Somebody who shouldn't have your data gets it. The fallout is just brutal. We're talking huge legal penalties, massive fines, and maybe worst of all, a catastrophic loss of customer trust that can take years to rebuild if you can rebuild it at all. But, have you ever really wondered what happens next? Like, a hacker steals 1 million passwords. Where do they go? What's the next step in this whole criminal supply chain? Well, the answer is usually the dark web. It's this hidden, anonymous part of the internet where criminals buy and sell stolen data on these illegal online markets. Your passwords, your credit card numbers, all your personal info. It all just becomes another product for sale in a massive underground economy.
So, after hearing about all of these cons and weapons and shady marketplaces, it's pretty easy to feel a little helpless, right? But what if our very best defense has been right here in front of us the whole time? And the answer brings us right back to where we started. It's all about building what we call a human firewall. This is the moment where we totally flip the script and turn that so-called weakest link, people, into our single most powerful security asset. And it really comes down to this one powerful shift in thinking. Security can't just be the IT department's problem anymore. It just can't. It has to be everyone's responsibility. From the person at the front desk to the CEO in the corner office, every single person has to see themselves as a guardian of the company's data. So, what does a culture like that actually look like? Well, it's not a one-and-done training session. It's about continuous learning. It's about creating a safe place where someone can put their hand up and say, I think I clicked something bad, without being afraid of getting blamed. It means you have to have real, visible support from leadership. And it means we start treating cyber awareness like any other core professional skill, just as important as communication or time management.
Because in the end, an alert, educated employee who just pauses for 1 second before clicking on a suspicious link, well, that person can literally be the only thing standing between a minor close call and an absolute catastrophe. And that person, that can be you.